Thanks for coming. I'm Rachel. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Eli. I am our other co-facilitator tonight. I use they, them pronouns, and I am excited to make stuff with all of you.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So anybody can make a zine. I think this is the main thing that we really hope that everybody will take away with them. This is not like we have a lot of different possible ways that one can make a zine. Some people make incredibly beautiful professional zines, and some people make really casual one-off kinds of things. And I personally am about to make the latter.
Same.
So making sure. All right. Okay. So the theme of that we're going to be working from tonight is change and transformation. Now, you don't have to stick to the theme. Please feel like you can follow your creative impulse wherever it guides you.
Okay. So now that we've figured out kind of who we are, we're going to talk a little bit about what is this. So this is week 2 of an ongoing zine workshop, but don't worry if you weren't here last time, because every session is independent. We will show you a couple different simple ways to make a zine and get started on a project. And then if you have a good time, you're welcome to come for the next 2 weeks, and we'll do the same thing but with different themes. And if you're not familiar with what a zine is, it's basically a DIY magazine. It can have art or writing or collages or really anything that you would like to put in there. You can get really creative, and we're going to show you a few examples, including some digital and some physical. I don't have permission to share the digital ones right now, so I will put some links in the chat for some of those. And then I think Rachel has some paper copies to share.
I picked a few from my personal collection that are, I think, good for this theme. So these are all like a play on different kinds of formats. So this is one of my favorites. And you can see that it was just like went through with a wide variety of like, yeah, it was just a piece of paper folded up. This is another one that I love. You have to take off its little diaper in order to read it. So I just want to say, like, any format is totally fine. Be a flip book.
Rachel, you had a question on the last one for the Changelings zine. Was the author Rachel Bard?
Yes, the author was Rachel Bard, and I was going to share a link to her work in the chat.
Great, thank you.
She made a mini pet portrait of my pet a while ago, so it's funny.
Oh, I love her so much. Okay, cool. Okay, and then I have one more that I want to show for the purposes of unusual formats. Oops, can't lose the diaper. So this isn't at all a zine. This is a super fancy art book. but I think it does something very unusual, but very easy really for you to do, which is an accordion fold. And it's really just glued together. In fact, whoops, page got a little stuck. And this is actually going like on the other side, it's got all this wonderful text, including a timeline so that you can see how each of the panels change through time. But yeah. Okay, so those are some that I wanted to share for their unusual formats. And then Eli, do you want to share for the?
So yeah, I have a few different digital examples. There are a lot of really interesting archives throughout the internet of zines that people have made. And I like this one and a few of the other examples I'm going to show you because I think they cover kind of a range of some of the different things that you can do with a zine. Like I like how this one uses a lot of like a collage and like multimedia combinations of things. And then I have one or two more. There is also this one, which is more of a simple comic, which I like because it is pretty cute. And I put links to all these in the chat if you want to actually properly read them. But I like that something simple like this is maybe a little bit more feasible to do in a shorter session, or at least to like plan out, whereas like some of the more complicated, cool ones that Rachel showed are awesome for the range of what you can do with a zine, but I think it's also a little bit intimidating to look at some of those. At least it is for me as a zine newbie. I have only made a few zines, and most of the ones I have made are at least half scribbles. So if that's where you're at, that's okay. I'm there too. Yeah, and there are a few others with more text just to give an idea of what that's like that are linked in the chat, but I won't go through those because I recognize it's a little bit boring to watch someone scroll past text that you can't actually read.
Yeah, but they are pretty great. So thank you for sharing them. All right, I'm going to go back into sharing the screen. We're going to talk about how do I make a zine any way you want. Move in the chat. Okay. So tools could be, you could collage, you know, if you wanted to tape or glue pages together, that's an option. Staples, needle and thread, different ways of binding. Okay, and then there's the classic 8-page zine, which we have instructions for. And Becca, would you mind dropping that link back in the chat? Thank you. One of the reasons why the 8-page zine is so wonderful is because it's small and so it's easy to use, but it's also really easy to photocopy, which is a thing that people used to do, usually sneaking into their offices or staying late and then using the copier surreptitiously and, you know, making 100 zines. And it's really easy when it's just one page. And then you do have to, in this style, you do want to use scissors. And so it's a lot of folding still, but being able to just photocopy one page and then have like a full book is pretty lovely. But example number 2. So I am going to do the kind of zine that was like what I would have done in high school. One piece of paper. Folding it in half. Two pieces of paper. Folding them in half. I have scissors, so I just choose not to use them. Okay. So now I have, if I want to just go with this, I've got the cover, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, and a back cover. And because I'm not feeling super, super ambitious in terms of length, that's good enough for me. So now, trusty stapler. Unfortunately, the stapler doesn't quite reach the middle. So one thing that is really useful if you are going to staple is to staple from the outside, because otherwise you're going to have the prongs of the staple facing outward and it's going to potentially catch on things. I'm just eyeballing it. So, and then this crease will come out. It's fine. All right, and so now it's ready for me to create. So hopefully that is an example, and I'm gonna actually, I will create, but we're also, we've got some awesome prompts for you. So I'm gonna share my screen one more time.
Yeah, before we go on to the prompts, I do actually have 2 fun secrets to share with all of you. One of them is if you do the tear and fold and staple method like that, big stack of heavy books, great for getting out your extra creases. Come to the library, we have lots of heavy books and other fun things. Secret number 2, if you do the 8-page zine with the lots of folding and a little bit of cutting, one thing that I really like about that is because you don't have to staple or sew anything, you can unfold it and then have one side that's just one sheet that can be like a poster and still fold it back up and have the other side of the paper fold into your little book. So you kind of get a 2 for 1.
Fun prompts. So while people are looking at these and considering, any questions, any thoughts that you would like to share at this time, any ideas that you might want to share?
You can create an 8-page book if you do a little research on origami and try to find an 8-page book. It's in one of the origami books that I have, and you might find that useful.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I love like learning different folds too. There might be some really cool ways to make like the same thing from a sheet of paper that have more flexibility. Thank you for sharing. I am going to start the playlist, which I also would love. So Eli and I made a very tiny, weird little playlist of songs of change and transformation. And I have my chat open, and so does Eli, I'm sure. So if you have anything that you would like to add to the playlist, I encourage you to tell us, and we will put it on. Clean lyrics preferred, thank you. And let me, even with 2 monitors, this is hard, y'all. Hold on. All right. So it's on random. Hopefully it's gonna work. Starting with the classic. Okay, so I've got my pencil, I've got my papers.
So don't know what I was waiting for, and my time was running wild in dead-end streets, and every time I thought I got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me, but I've never caught a glimpse how the others receive faker. I'm much too fast to take that test. Change, turn and face the strain. Changes. watch a man changes. Turn and face the strange changes. It's gonna have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't trace time. Yeah. I watch the ripples change the sides, but never leave the stream of warm and permanent sand. So the days float through my eyes, but still the days seem the same. And these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through. Changes. Turn and face the strange. Changes. Don't tell them to grow up out of it. Changes. Turn and face the strange. Changes. Where's the shame you've left us up to an accident? Time may change me. You can't twist time. Strange fascination fascinating me. Our changes are taking the pace I'm going through. Changes. Turn and face the strange changes. Oh, look out, you rock and rollers. Changes. Turn and face the strange changes. Pretty soon now you're gonna get older. Time may change me, but I can't trace time. I said that time may change me, but I can't trace time.
Okay, I totally hate to cut off the song, but we're gonna run low on time for sharing, and I hate to lose out on that. I'll go first if anybody wants to. I don't know if you want to spotlight me, Lena, but I made a comic based on, or a zine based on Linda Berry, on her instructions to draw a squiggle, a clothesline squiggle, and then turn it into a monster. And then there were further instructions on giving them things to say. So that was what I did. I transformed squiggles into monsters. Does anybody else want to share? That one's I like that one.
I like what you did.
Thanks.
I can share if nobody else wants to. I started something with mixed success. So I kind of wanted to play around with the word change. And so I made each page a drawing based on the different letters. And I tried to go with things that like associate with change. So like this is a tree made out of all C shapes. This one started out as a bookshelf made of H shapes, and then I didn't like that. And so there are a bunch of other H's on top, and I don't know what it is, but it's kind of, the vibe I'm going for is kind of like a pattern or a paved way paving over the like originality, but you can still see some bits of the color poking through. And then the A's, this is supposed to be mountains. It's not really clear. N started out as a mermaid. It went a little off track. I tried to bring it back around, but in theory, like we have the hair and the scales and the body. G, I don't know what's happening. There are some parts, this is sort of like a rat. At one point, this was dog adjacent, but it's mostly squiggles because I didn't like get a strong vibe there. And then E is little flowers with the like loops of the lowercase cursive E's. So as an idea, I'm into it. The execution, on this particular edition is not great, but I think it's a good first draft, and I might think about it some more and make something that's a little bit more polished later.
I can share if nobody else wants to go. So I would like to say that Corey made me think about purple yarn, but to be honest, like 75% of the time, just generally I'm thinking about purple yarn. So that's kind of where mine came from. I did, ooh, my light is not great. Okay, here we go. So I did changes. And for some reason, my folding turned out to be a very long, skinny book. So I started with a sheep and a spinning wheel, and then yarn, and then the yarn is dyed, and then it's knit, and then it's a sock. The end.
I love it. Keep it going, folks. Jump in.
I can go. I feel like I'm more literal with my stuff. Like I can't be exact. Like I don't know how to do that. And I'm not a good drawer, so I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. But so you guys had something about COVID, and so I made. I also don't have good handwriting. Really, none of this is natural to me. So COVID changes, and this is me sitting in my apartment all year, looking out the window. But just like talking about things that changed this year that wouldn't have changed otherwise. So more time with my best friend. So there's me dreaming of my dog, dreaming of food. And then I started a new lifelong hobby of embroidery. So I did that. Thanks, Mimosa. That was a tiny detail, yes. And then, so I started liking running this year. I tried to draw my face and it just didn't go well. So I'm trying to just draw a big black heart to say that I love running. And that's about all I got. So yeah, it's just like a reflection of stuff that changed this year that wouldn't have changed if we hadn't had a whole dang pandemic. So.
As a children's librarian, I have to say, I see all these as books. And zines are kind of like books. So, well, they're a different thing. So you guys are also talented. I just did words and phrases. I did the past, present, and future. And I kind of looked at, because at different points in my life, I've lived in the past when I should be living in the present, future when I should be living in the past, all these different things. So I just put a bunch of quotes, and it's just words right now. It's nothing pretty to look at, but it made me think of different quotes that inspired me. And I have like a Nietzsche quote in here, but I also have like a quote that, I don't know, it's from some song that I don't even know what it is. So some of the quotes I really want to make sure I attribute them all to the correct person. I hate when people are misquoted. So, but it makes me want to go through and look at some quotes and kind of collect that. But everyone else's, I love the creativity, and I saw change. So there's been a lot of change. Great job.
Tom, did you want to share?
I taught origami for a while in the after school enrichment program, and that's why I know about that origami book, but I haven't made it for years. And while we were having the class, I went on Google and just put it in an origami booklet, and the instructions are there, and I put that into the chat, and I'm about to try to make one. I haven't done it for about 10 years, but it should be very easy and come back right away. Making the booklet's very, pretty simple, and you have no stapling, and you do one small cut. You don't cut anything out, and that can also be done with a tear if you want. It just looks nicer if you do a cut, but it forms a nice booklet. And I think at one time I took two of those booklets and attached them together and got a 16-page booklet by attaching two 8-page booklets together, maybe with Scotch tape or something. That's from memory, but that's how I spent my time. And I kind of cheated and left the class and tried to arrange my pickleball class games tomorrow morning. So I got information from all of you, and I'm sorry I not able to give back as much as I've got.
Thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing that. All right, we're slightly over time, but if anybody else wants to share one more thing, I would love to make space for anybody else who has something that they want to share.
But I made just a cutout booklet, so it's sort of collage. The title is "What Will You Remember?" And then I just cut out some phrases that I liked from magazines. So it says "Begin anew," "Safe haven." The next one is a person looking through a video camera, and it says "See anew." And last page, it just says "Uprising," and there's some flowers on it because I like florals.
Awesome, thank you. I love that we have like such a big range of different things with like different prompts people chose, but also different interpretations where some people went with something mostly or entirely text-based, and some people stuck to like almost all images, and some people tried to use a mixture of the two. That was really neat.
I'm gonna put up our last slide with the what's next, so that we can talk about the next 2 workshops. Please join us; it'll be fun. And also, if you made something that you would like to share with the world, or if you make something in the future, or if you've already made something during this time of quarantine, we encourage you to submit it to our documentary project, the COVID-19 Skokie Stories project. The URL is right there. And you can just take a picture of whatever it is that you've made and submit it to us. Tell us a little bit about it. And that'll hopefully, give you reason to keep going if there's something that you're in the middle of making. Yeah. So we'd love to have anything that anybody wants to submit. Stop share. Come on, mouse. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks for staying a little bit over. Sorry to keep you, and have a wonderful evening.